Hey, I'm Andrea Runnels, also known as the Social Studies Whisperer. And yes, I am passionate about American history, and I'm a huge history nerd. I also was a teacher for 16 years. I left the public school classroom because I want to help support English language learners from the outside. And by helping teachers, I can help support those kids. I also left the classroom to be a champion for kids with ADHD. So a lot of the activities that I include in my social studies topics are things that are modified to meet the needs of my two special populations, because I feel that English language learners are one of the most, I just don't even have the words. They have so much potential. There's so much possibility if a teacher just takes the time to believe in a child and just show them that they have so much to offer, and that being an English language learner is not special education. If you are an English language learner, that means you probably know more than one language, and that means you are smarter than the rest of the kids. And so I will include a pep talk just for kids at the end of this, because some of the best work I did in the classroom was building up my kiddos who were not the typical norm, like my gifted learners, my English language learners, and my kids with ADHD. The whole entire reason why I took the gifted endorsement was to better meet the needs of my kids who were English language learners, because I felt that they were not being identified the way that they should. And so this course is going to give you the opportunity to modify your curriculum in a way that is easy and that will be best practices for all kids. And so I'm using the lens of social studies to help you, because what it is like a scrapbook of sorts, in like a digital guide to setting up your English language learners for success the way that I did in the classroom my last year. And so included are a lot of social studies ideas, because I was departmentalized and taught science and social studies. And as a social studies whisperer, super passionate about social studies. Okay. I believe in connecting the past to the present, and I believe in making content relevant. And to do that, you also need to include people of diversity. And so that's super, super, super important. Okay, so I hope that this gives you a lot of practical tips and a lot of inspiration so that you can set yourself up for success, for modifying your content for English language learners, and then therefore the kiddos are set up for success. Because if you take that time to build that relationship with those kiddos, then you will be amazed at the progress they will make. I had kids coming in not speaking English, and at the end of the year, I was mind blown. They were reading on like second or third grade reading level. I mean, mind blowing. It just takes one teacher to make a difference. And the fact that you're watching this right now means that you care. Okay? Thank you so much. A little background first. I want you to think about your comfort level with where you are with modifying curriculum. Maybe you have no experience at all, and that's okay. Maybe you do have some training, but you've just been too busy. That's probably more likely the case. So what this is going to do, like I said, there's a reason it's called a quick start guide, because it's going to help you with some easy strategies. I'm not asking you to fill out paperwork upon paperwork upon paperwork and do these really complicated things. Okay, first of all, I will be using the words English language learners and ESOL interchangeably, or ELLs, because those are the terms that are familiar to me. I realize in other states, your students who are English language learners are referred to by other program types. But I'm from Georgia, and those are the terms that I'm familiar with. Also, I will say newcomers, and by newcomers, I mean students who might be a level 1. Okay, let's think about levels first of all. In the book, I refer to WIDA levels, WIDA. And I have a link to WIDA.us to help you get a little background upon the different WIDA levels, because the way the levels go from like beginning student to like exiting the ESOL program. And so it's kind of important to be familiar with that before you get further upon your study. And it's in each subject level varies as well. So that website has a tremendous blog, and so that's a great place to start. And I've also included tons of helpful links at the end of this. Okay. And so thank you so much for watching, and think about where you are now, what level you're at, and then hopefully by the end you'll be ready to level up. Okay, let's get started. All right, hack 2 is the post. So what I mean by this is posting objectives on the wall. Okay, every school requires something different versus essential questions or I can statements, learning targets, or curriculum standards, or however you're supposed to post them. So first of all, do whatever your administration says to do for posting objectives on the wall. Then have a separate place where you post things just for your English language learners. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes the curriculum standards or the required things, the way I was required to post them, it was kind of confusing for any of the students, let alone English language learners. And so it's important to have a separate place where you have academic vocabulary for them. And maybe it's just things like glue, cut, write, words that they are working on too. They are like academic, you have academic vocabulary, and then you have your content area vocabulary. So it's important to have both of those things for your English language learners, because they need to develop their language skills, their school vocabulary words that will help them with any subject area in addition to the content area, okay? Because they're not going to be as familiar with those basic words. Okay, so something that I talk about before is, like, if you are doing a lesson, I would have one way to start a lesson hook, where I would make it a mystery what we were learning, what the kids were learning about. I would do like a magic word. I might have hangman. I might have, like, if it was Civil War or something, I might have like blanks on the wall. I mean, on the board with like blanks like for CIVIL and then WAR, and I would leave it up there. Okay, I think it's very important to let your English language learners know ahead of time what you're going to be talking about, because you need to build that context. And so if I did do something like that, I would make it pretty obvious pretty quick into the lesson what it was, and so that the kids could guess that, because that's just a little hook. And my lesson hooks were things that were like just attention getters. They weren't like things that would carry on through the entire lesson. Now, once I set the stage for the general topic, then maybe I would have some more specific words. And one other thing I used sometimes was like scrambled words. And so maybe those things aren't for your English language learners. So that's something to keep in mind. And another thing you can do is you can kind of discreetly tell your kiddos ahead of time that might need even like your special education kids as well, that you can tell them what the topic is going to be. And you can even write it on a Post-it note for them to set it up for success. So that's something to think about as well, that if you're doing those little lesson hook kinds of creative ways to start a lesson, make sure that you're giving the answer like close enough to the beginning of the lesson so that it's not confusing. I would always start by having the context on the wall. Like, I keep saying the wall because I had like stuff on the wall right beside the board. And I had like a dry erase board on the wall right near the board, the real board, like a separate place to write stuff. So it's also important, especially with social studies, or especially like with anything. If you're doing math, then you want to have like, this is part of fractions. Like, do you want to have a general topic on the board too? Like, we're doing fractions, and today we're, just a reminder, and that kind of was like a cue. Oh wait, we've already done this, this, and this. If we're doing Civil War, if we're talking about like the Battle of Gettysburg, then I would have like Civil War on the board, like a general topic as a reminder, like this relates to this, because you have to keep repeating things and keep going over things so that your kiddos understand it. Okay, so things to think about are post what you're supposed to post. That's a lot of because you want to make sure you're meeting the requirements of your administration, and then have separate language objectives and have them in the same place. And I give you some examples for using the SIOP method, and there's a link to that at the end of the book. It's a very, I have it written down what it stands for, because I will never remember to tell you. It's best practices for all students. It really is. You're going to be surprised when you look at it. So I highly recommend you going back and looking for that. So try the language objectives and have academic words and goals for your students and content subject specific goals for your students. And also, like I said, make sure that you have a general topic written on the board too, okay, to kind of help give them that framework and build that background so they can make those connections. Because something about me, like I realized, like something that's common for me as someone with ADHD is to make those connections. And I think that's why I was so good at teaching English language learners, because that's how my brain works, and I needed to make connections, and I think that really helped English language learners. So that was just like a bonus kind of a gift that I had as a teacher, because I was able to connect things together for kids, and that's what's super important about history especially. Okay, so on to hack number 3. Okay, this is broken down into different sections based on like my top 10 hacks. Teacher hacks are a great thing, like my little tips and tricks that I use to modify curriculum that the kids didn't even know. And I share some that relate to social studies as well. So you might accidentally end up liking social studies when this is over. So some of the topics I'm going to cover are setting up your classroom space and organizing your classroom library, primarily like for social studies or just to have more engagement from your English language learners. Also, I'm going to cover with setting up your classroom more like how I use a timeline on the wall as a preview, because it's important to preview things. I'm also going to cover posting language objectives in addition to whatever required curriculum standards that you are supposed to have. I'm also going to cover like some ways that I used whole brain teaching and did like hands-on vocabulary, and ways that I did used teach and had the kids had student-directed learning, and also gave the students opportunities to build speaking and listening skills, because all teachers are ESOL teachers. If your students are pulled out for services, then that's generally not too much of the day. And so it's very important to include those kids all through the day. That way you can increase their language acquisition even more, okay? Some other things that are going to be covered are going to be like anytime activities that English language learners can do, and like how to make a newcomer kit. Because I don't know how many times I was sitting there, like maybe it was during my planning time, or walking out the door, or in the middle of a reader's theater presentation. Yes. Or right before standardized testing. True story, it happened. And I got, Mrs. Reynolds, please send someone to get your new student. Like out of nowhere. That's how it was done at my school. Like you didn't know. You didn't get a heads up you were getting a new student. You were very lucky if you found out the day before. And so it's a good idea to have some stuff on hand in case you get a new student who does not speak English, because chances are the child might not even speak a language that you speak. I was lucky to know Spanish, but there were times when I got some students that spoke languages that I don't know. And so it's important to have a way to communicate and some ways to have the basic needs met, and kids to ask for help if they need it from a newcomer kit, okay? I'm also going to cover integrating the arts, because I think that's really, really important. And I'm also going to cover my picture dictionaries that I created to be a more supportive type of study guide for English language learners, okay? So I hope that this is helpful, and I hope that you learn a lot. And let's get started with setting up our classroom space with English language learners in mind.